in the last 10 years, this last decade, things have been completely weird. It's been crazy. To see this in real time is like a what a time to be alive type of moment. Just seeing this whole change from what it was 10 years ago up till now, it's drastic. It's really drastic. For example, um there's so many ways to make money now, but yet everything is so expensive and high. A lot of ways for people to make money. So it's like that's the pro of what's happened in the past 10 years. So many ways people can make money now, but yet everything is so expensive. The economy is so trash right now. Inflation and the cost of living is just super up there. A lot of people our age now either has to have a roommate living with their people, or if they live in on their own, it's a struggle for sure. Some people they living in their own but ain't got no furniture or no bed frame. They probably sleeping on an air mattress. I was one of them. I had a roommate and I had a big ass king air mattress. But yeah, cost of living is just so high. Yet there's so many ways we can make money. So it's I don't know if that balances out. The world and how sensitive the world is now is different. Back then, a lot of things could slide. You could slide with a lot of things back then versus now. You can't slide with a lot of stuff nowadays. As simple as saying the R word, you know what I'm saying? People use that so freely back then. Now it's as society is looked at as taboo word. Same with the F word and not the curse word. I'm talking about what rhymes with maggot. Like that word is forbidden to say in society now versus back then. That was loosely said. People made jokes about anything and not a care in the world versus now you make them same jokes, you're getting canceled. You got cancel culture. People are the con is that people are a lot of people society is super sensitive. But that's the con. Now the flip side is a lot of people are mental health is a big thing now versus back then. Back then, mental health was not talked about. Mental health, you talk about being depressed or sad, you talk about mental health, they look at you crazy. Like, mental health, get over it. Now it's talked about as it needs to be expressed. It needs to be talked about. You need to be at a right mental state. Mental health is very important. That's the pro of society right now. That's the pro that's happened within this last decade is that mental health is important versus back then. But is a lot of sensitive people now because of that. I feel like on the opposite side. Back then, diversity was not as common as nowadays, and that's a pro. But the con is people are forcing it. It's a difference between being open to it being naturally a thing versus forcing it. A lot of shows, a lot of movies, a lot of companies are just forcing it. So it's like a good and a bad with the whole diversity thing going on. Oh, anime. Yeah. 10 years ago, anime was not accepted. Not accepted. You was looked at as weird. You was like looked at as a nerd. Like stay away from me. You watch anime, ew. Like it was something that I had to hide enjoying. Anime was not a huge thing back then. It was slowly becoming, showing into the West. Um, but only people would like it in secret. Unless they were getting made fun of. They would be verbally abused, damn near physically abused. But like anime and having interest in it or drawing it, like you had to try to hide that, otherwise people look like And now 10 years later, the same people that probably frowned upon it, talk messed about it, it's probably 9 times out of 10 watching it now or asking for recommendations. Not to mention, the reason why it's like that is because it's been mainstream now. You have so many collabs now, like with McDonald's. You have collabs with games. You have collabs with artists cosplaying as these anime characters. It's crazy how anime has just blown up. Like you have collabs with shows like Star Wars mixed with anime version. You have Suicide Squad anime version. You have Devil May Cry anime version. You have anime versions of a lot of things. It's like become so well popularized and accepted to seeing that art form and art style versus back then. It was not like that at all. That's another huge thing that's happened in the past 10 years is anime being so mainstream now and accepted versus back then. Me, I was like on the fence of I was kind of hiding it because I didn't want to make it a big deal of being the target of being, picked on. But I couldn't also hide who I was. Like I still loved anime regardless. Like I had to suppress basically my love for anime. I had to censor myself for the love of anime back then versus now it's like, oh, I love anime. And you hear a bunch of women now and be bad women too. It be pretty women. I've seen that's like accepted of anime. They love anime. And Megan Thee Stallion, huge anime fan and a rapper. What I'm saying, cosplaying and just like openly. We have it's just so crazy. And that's one of the pros is that anime has been definitely acceptable and it's popularized. The con is the fact that the same people who talk the mess about anime are those same ones now that's watching it. That's the con. It's become a huge trend to watch anime and it's became acceptable. Like stick to what you was doing. Like though why why all of a sudden that it's acceptable, it's a trend, now you wanna watch it. But you the same one that about bad mouth anime. Like yeah, no, that's crazy. That's the con right there. The hypocrisy. Yeah, I'm not the one to be like, oh, you post COVID anime watcher, so you not a veteran. You this. Like, yeah, I got the veteran right to say I've watched anime for the longest since I was a single digit. But to shame somebody for watching it who's new to it, like, no, nah. Like there's gonna be new watchers. Is widely accepted. It's just again the ones that talk the mess about it now. It's just oh, fashion nowadays. People are being their own. Like they having their own identity when it comes to fashion. They're having their own personality and identity when it comes to fashion. Versus back then, if you tried to dress any other way, you was looked down upon. Like dressing the way people dress it now versus back then, they would look at them crazy. People's common sense is lacking nowadays. Common sense is lacking. Yes, people's common sense has gotten so bad and terrible. Sense is not common nowadays because it is terrible. People real life don't got common sense. You see it within the comments of social media. Not even the comments, of just what people post. It's like what? Gaming has been different back then versus now. Gaming is super popular now. Since the internet, everything is saturated. It makes it, and the internet makes it look like everything you try to do is saturated. People judging on social is at an all-time high. Yeah, so that's the negative part about social media. That's the negative part. The judgmental mindset in general is at an all-time high because everybody expects people to look perfect, and have a perfect life. Like with social media showing everybody's highlights, you know what I'm saying? People trying to keep up with the Joneses, you know what I'm saying? And people shaming others for not looking a certain way. Like people like to say social media ain't real, but it's a lot of people's reality. So it's real to them because a lot of people be on it. Everything happens on social media. That's our TV, that's our entertainment, that's our gaming, that's our news. Social media is all that. 10 years ago, dating was not this hard versus nowadays. 10 I come on now, dating 10 years ago was not as hard as it is nowadays. Not to mention interacting with each other in real life versus back then. Interacting with each other back then was a lot better than what it is nowadays. You go to the club and people was just standing around. Dating apps is horrible. Horrible. Like horrible. Especially now. Around the time it was cool cuz I ain't gonna lie. I was on Tinder. I had my first real relationship from Tinder. Like we was 3 years type ish, like living together and all that. It's hard for men to approach women in real life. It's hard for people to socialize in general in real life. There's so many artists nowadays versus 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was looked at as you needed to know someone to know someone to know someone, or like there was gatekeepers. So like the pros about like artists, rappers, musicians, the pros is that it's open now. But yeah, I just want to just talk about just the past decade, like how weird and crazy it's been. You know, it's 2024, about to be 2025, and a lot more things are gonna change. In the comments, type what you think has been a big difference back then versus now.